Good morning.
Good morning.
We're still trickling in, but we could do better than that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Mountain Ridge. We're excited to worship with you this morning. Let's stand as we do that. Sometimes on this journey, I get lost in my mistakes. What looks to be like weakness is a canvas for your strength. My story isn't over, my story's just begun. And failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Now failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Woo. Sing arrival's not the end. And arrival's not the end game. Now the journey's where you are. And you never wanted perfect, you just wanted my heart. And the story isn't over if the story isn't good. And failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Oh, failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Come on. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Yeah. And the prodigals come home, the helpless find home, and love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Come on. And the prison doors swing wide, and the dead come to the light. Oh, love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Yeah. And the miracles take place, the cynical find faith. Oh, love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. And the Jericho walls are quaking, strongholds now are shaking. Love's breaking through when the Father's in the room. Oh, love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. So check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Amen. Let's continue our worship this morning. Oh, I've searched the world, but it couldn't feel me. Man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. And you came along
Boom. Yeah, I'm not a rock star. Sorry. Hey, welcome to Mountain Ridge. How's everybody doing this morning? You may be welcome joining us, whether you're in person or you're online. We're glad that you're a part of our worship today. I want to encourage you, if you're new with us online or you're new in person, we would love to connect with you. If you're in person, the best way that we can connect with you is to simply go to the Connect Center right after the service, and myself and Pastor Brett will be out there. We'd love to connect with you. We'd love to give you a free gift and a thank you for being a part of our service. If you're online, the best way that you can connect with us is simple.org/online connect. Again, we want to connect with you as well. We're so glad that you're joining us. I want to share with you some great things that are coming up in the life of our church. Next weekend is our Welcome to the Neighborhood. If you're new to Mountain Ridge, if you're new to online or in person, we would love to get to know you and to meet you as a staff. And so next Sunday, immediately after the service, this service, we're actually going to have a lunch provided, and we'd love for you to come be a part of that. Myself, Pastor Brett, all of our other staff, we're going to be there. It's just a great time where you can get to know us and we can get to know you. But I want to encourage you, come be a part of that. You can actually RSVP. It's right there on the screen. So I encourage you, register for that. Come be a part of that. We would love to get to know you. Also, coming up is an opportunity for you and I to love our neighbor. And the way that we're going to do that is we are partnering with Habitat for Humanity. And we are going to be helping them to build a house. So on Saturday, October the 24th, from 6:30 a.m. till noon, we're going to be partnering with Habitat to help build a house. And it's right here. It's not that far from our church. It's at 51st Avenue in Glendale. And so I just want to encourage you to be a part of that. You can register. You can actually register online at mountainridge.org/events. Or you can go to our app and just hit the events button, and you're actually going to see Habitat for Humanity. And so I just want to encourage you, register for that. It's going to be a great way that you and I can partner and love our community well. And this is for anyone that is 16 years and older. And I know what you're thinking. I've never built a house. That's okay, I haven't either, other than in Mexico, doing some pieces here and there. But what they told me is, I don't have to have any experience. They just need people that are willing to come and help to build this house. There's gonna be other groups there besides us. I promise they're taking all the precautions necessary as we arrive to protect us. And also you'll have an opportunity to meet the future homeowner of that home as well. And so I just wanna encourage you, register for that as we love our community. Also, when you came in, when you came in, there was a card maybe in the seat that you're sitting in or next to you. It's a bingo card. Again, this whole idea of loving our neighbors well. We are actually partnering with an organization in Haiti that we've partnered with for years, Heartline. We're partnering with New Life Pregnancy Center and Rio Vista Center to help them during this season. When it comes to Haiti, we're actually asking you to donate items that are on this bingo list. And so you go across or you go diagonal or up and down, but we want you to fill out your bingo card, bring it back with your items. There's going to be places in the lobby in both buildings where you can drop off items, and every card where you fill out a whole line, you'll actually be entered into a drawing to win a prize. It's a great way for you to participate with your family, your friends, and simply help somebody in need. And so with Haiti, we're actually building shoe boxes. With New Life Pregnancy Center, we're building layette bags, which are actually bags that they give to new moms or expecting moms. And then with Rio Vista Center, it's actually homeless packages. And so we just want to encourage you, participate, be a part of it. Again, we just want to be a good neighbor and love those around us and support the organizations that we believe in. Again, thank you for being here. Would you stand as we continue to worship?
Let's keep the praise going this morning. Let faith arise. In spite of what I see, Lord, I believe. But help my unbelief. I choose to trust you. No matter what I feel, let faith arise. Let faith arise. For my champion's not dead, he is. come, I lift my eyes. Oh, for the battle has been won. My God is faithful, and every single word He says is true. God of miracles, come. We need Your supernatural love to break through. Nothing's impossible. You're the God of miracles. This world is shaking, but I'm not. My heart is breaking, but I'm not broken yet. Your love is fearless. Help me to be courageous too. Oh, nothing is impossible. This world is shaking, but You cannot be shaken. My heart is breaking, but I'm not broken yet. Your love is fearless. Help me to be courageous too. Oh, nothing is impossible for the God of miracles. We need Your supernatural love to break through. Nothing's impossible. You're the God of miracles. God of miracles, come. We need Your supernatural love. You're the God of miracles. God of miracles. Give Him the glory, church. Who am I with the highest King would welcome me? I was lost, but You brought me in. His love for me. Oh, His love
Please be seated.
I believe God is for me. Everything I have is a gift. You will never hear me say I deserve everything.
Hey, don't, it really enjoyed this series we're doing called More Than I Deserve. And like I said, I want to catch you up. If you haven't been here, or if you haven't been watching online, it's super easy. But the idea is God gives us more than we deserve. And us, the way he gives us strength, the joy he provides, that God gives us a lot more than we deserve. And the closer we move to God, the closer we move towards God, the more we see these things that God's doing in our life. And today, we're going to talk about the idea that we have more hope than we deserve. And it really comes out of this fundamental truth that we've talked about every week. And it's a simple idea, and it's true for you, even if you don't feel it right now. It's true for you that your heavenly Father heavily favors you. He favors you. You're one of his favorites. Today, like I said, we're going to talk about hope. We're going to talk about this idea that I have hope and I have more hope than I deserve. But we kind of got to clear up a few things about hope, because the truth is we use hope in a lot of different ways and we mean a lot of different things. And so, for example, sometimes we use hope as a wish. I saw this tweet the other day, which I thought was pretty cool. This guy says, my company is talking about chipping their employees, putting chips in their employees, ... I hope I get, yeah. Come on, it gets worse, just hang in there with me. Yeah, I hope I get Doritos. Don't think he quite understood it. Sometimes it's sarcastic. And so, for example, another guy, if you've seen these neighborhood community bulletin boards that are electronic where you can post stuff that's going on in your neighborhood, hey, does anybody see, or if we're missing a cat, or why are the police down the street, whatever. One guy posted in his, and he was kind of mad. He posted two messages, one right after the other. The first one, he says, to whoever stole the package off my porch. And you're like, oh, this isn't going to be good. Underneath it says, those were my antidepressants. I hope you are happy now. So he kind of, come on, it's okay, it's funny. And then the last one, the last way we use hope, sometimes we use it because it's what we wish for. Sometimes we use it sarcastically. Sometimes we use it for the outcome that we want. And Vince Morano was interviewed by the Cincinnati Enquirer. Vince lived in Cincinnati, and football season has started up. Vince is a football fan. And he said, look, if you live in the state of Ohio, football has been bad for a long time. It's the Bengals and the Browns, the Bengals and the Browns. And he said, we have gone over 30 years without a championship of any kind. And so he said, as a fan group, we have petitioned, and we are hoping for approval from the Ohio State Medical Board that being a fan of the Browns or the Broncos is a qualifying condition for medical marijuana. All right, so he's hoping for something. We use hope in a lot of ways. But when we see real hope, right? When we see courage-inspiring hope, when we see life-giving hope, when we see attitude-changing hope, we know it, right? We know the difference between that and wishing for something or being sarcastic or whatever the case may be. We know it, and not only do we know it, we want it. Right? We want it. We want that kind of hope, to feel like I got my future taken care of because I have such a great hope in what's going to happen. I don't have to worry about it. We all want that kind of hope. But what we get, what most of us get, are what I call blasts of hope, right?
right? And there's nothing wrong with blasts of hope, but for a lot of us, we're kind of living on these little blasts. And so it might happen, for example, maybe you got some kids running around the house and your son is unexpectedly grateful. And you're kind of like, whew, actually there is some hope, right? You know, they did something right. I'm excited about that. Or maybe your sister has done something super thoughtful and kind for you, and you know, you didn't even expect it, and it's just because she loves you, and you're like, wow, that really gives me hope, you know? Or maybe your friend came alongside you in a hard time, and you really treasure the fact that they were willing to sit with you and talk with you and encourage you, and that gives you hope, these little blasts of hope. Problem is, you can't control it, right? You don't know when they're coming. You don't know who they're coming from. And so what we love to get the little blast of hope, but what we need is not a little blast of hope. We need a hope that lasts. We need something that sticks around, that's not dependent on if I got good grades or if everything worked out today or if my team won. I mean, we need something more substantial than that, right? If we really want that kind of life-defining, attitude-changing, courage-inspiring hope, it can't come from these little blasts. There's got to be something more substantial than that. And what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to explain it, so if it doesn't make sense right out of the gate, don't worry about it. We're going to explain it. But your circumstances change, but God's character is the same. And that's actually why you can have hope. But I got to be honest with you, that's hard to remember in a tough season, isn't it? I mean, you know, when you're having a hard day, it's hard to remember that God doesn't change, and that's actually my source of hope. Or when you're having a tough week or a tough month or a tough 2020, right? It's hard to remember that. And you're no different than anybody else. As a matter of fact, the guy who wrote Psalm 130 that we're going to look at in just a moment wrote it over 2,500 years ago, and he wrote this song for that exact same reason, because it is hard to remember that you have hope when things are not going well, because things were not going well in his life. And so if you want to follow along on the app, or if you've got a Bible handy, we're going to be in Psalm 130. And one of the things I love about Psalm 130 is it is so completely honest. It's just honest. At the heart of this song, because all the Psalms in the Bible were actually songs that were sung, but at the heart of this song is really a prayer. And at the heart of this prayer is somebody's heart that is suffering. And what's so beautiful about it is, this psalm, it gives authenticity to our suffering. We don't have to be embarrassed about it. We don't have to pretend like it's not there. We don't have to deny it. We don't have to apologize for it. We can actually, according to this psalm, we can actually bring our suffering passionately and honestly before God and set it in front of him and know that he cares about it. And that's exactly what the psalmist does. So let's look at it together. Psalm 130, verse 1, and I'm going to kind of comment as we go. He says, out of the depths I cry to you, Lord. So just, first thing, this isn't, hey, God, if you could help me out today, this would be great. He is talking to God. He's not writing a letter or sending an email or a text. He is crying for mercy. This guy is desperate. He says, verse 3, if you, Lord, kept a record of sins, Lord, who could stand? I mean, who could stand up to that, God, if you kept records? Verse 4, but with you there is forgiveness, so that we can with reverence serve you. And let's kind of put your finger right there and stop on that for just a moment, because what he is talking about. Because one of the things that he does that is so ingenious, that is so smart, is he brings his suffering to God. And I know I'm like this, and maybe you are too. So many times when we are suffering, the last place we go is God. We go to our best friend, we go to our doctor, we go to our therapist, we go to trying to find a vacation or a hobby, or we go to somebody else that we can hire to help us or whatever it is. But it seems like for some reason, the last place we go when we suffer is God. And this guy is suffering. And as it turns out, he's not just suffering because for a lot of, think about suffering. It really happens for one of two reasons, right? If you're hurting, if things aren't going well, if you're frustrated with your life, if you're feeling pain, it usually comes from one of two places. It comes from what other people or other situations have done to you, right? Somebody's done something to you, or your boss has done something, or your company's done something. You're hurting because of somebody else did. Or, and I know we don't like to talk about this part, it's because of a decision we made, right? Something we did. And again, I'm not trying to take you down, a bad path here, but the reality is, and we all know this, we can all look back at spots in our life where we made a decision or we did something, and we look at that and we go, man, if I could have done that over, I messed up right there. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I missed the mark. I failed. And I wish I could do it over, and I wish I hadn't done that, and I wish things were different. We've all got suffering and pain in our life because of decisions we have made. And it's no different with the guy that wrote this psalm. He is suffering, and he out and out calls it what it is. He says, because of my sin. Because I knew what God wanted, I knew what God's standard was, and I missed it. I chose opposite of it. I sinned. I missed the mark. And he feels like he's in trouble. And we know, right? We've all had that experience. We all know, if we're human, we know what it is to be in trouble. Right? When you get that call from your boss and they tell you, hey, I need to meet with you first thing in the morning. We've got some important things to talk about, and the HR rep's going to join us. That's not a good meeting. When you get a call from the school, hey, we want to talk to you about your son. Oh, okay, what's up? No, we better do this in person. Can you come by the office tomorrow? Ooh. We know what it's like to have that sense of trouble. He feels the trouble. But like I said, he does this amazing thing. He takes it to God first. Even though the reason for his suffering and for his pain isn't because of what somebody else did, it's because of what he did. He made a decision. He made a choice. He missed the mark. He sinned against God. But he takes that suffering that he's feeling and he takes it to God first. It was just amazing to me because that's not what we do. And I don't mean we like you in particular. I mean all of us together, we tend to not do that, right? And let me see if I can explain it this way. See, there's kind of this mindset out in the world, and maybe you share it, which is, that's fine. Let's talk about it. But there's this mindset out there that whatever's going on in my life, whatever I'm dealing with, I can handle it. I will fix it. I've got this. Or the opposite, I have to handle it. I have to fix it. And we kind of see the world and we kind of see God as something where we shrug our shoulders and go, well, I don't really need God, if there even really is a God out there. And even if I believe in God, I just kind of feel like I got to fix my stuff and take care of my business. And so subconsciously or consciously, what happens is we don't think we need God, or we're not sure God's out there, or we feel like we've got to handle it, or whatever it is. We never take our suffering to God. So instead, we just sit in it. Right? And we kind of take the approach that I can control it, I can fix it, I can handle it. And so what happens is we blow it with our kid, for example. And then our son won't talk to us. And so our response to that, instead of taking that to God, is we say, you know what? I got it. I'll take care of it. I can fix it. I've got this. We find ourselves looking at porn way too much on the internet, and we say, you know what? I've got this. I can handle it. I'll fix this. We find ourselves in a marriage that feels empty and pointless. And we say to ourselves, you know what? I can handle this. It's fine. I'll either wait till they figure it out or whatever. It's going to be fine. I've got it. We find ourselves drowning in anxiety and uncertainty and feeling like the world is closing in on us. And we're exhausted. And we say, I've got this. I can fix it. I can handle it. It'll be okay. And we drink too much. We medicate too much. We eat too much. We smoke too much. And we say, I've got it. I got it. I don't need God. I can handle this. I'll take care of it. I can control this. I'll fix it myself. And we keep sitting in our suffering. And here's what's really going on, which is, it's like a tube of toothpaste, okay? I went to Costco or Sam's one of them this weekend and bought like the, jumbo pack of toothpaste. It's like the toothpaste the size of burritos, and there's like 15 of them in there. And so you get a tube of toothpaste, and if you leave the lid on, right, and start squeezing it, what's going to happen? Well, if you squeeze it hard enough, sooner or later, that toothpaste is going to come out somewhere, right? It's just going to all over the place. And that's us. We don't take our suffering to God. We try to handle it on ourselves. And in essence, what we're doing is we're putting the lid tight on the tube of toothpaste. And we keep getting squeezed by the suffering. We keep getting squeezed by what's going on around us. And we wonder, why is my life just kind of leaking out and splatting out all over the place? And here's what's under all of that. It's a feeling. It's a real thing that we don't ever talk about. It's something we want to pretend like is not there. But it is the root emotion that's underneath all of this. It's this 5-letter word that is begging for a release. It's called guilt. And I know we're not supposed to be guilty. Everybody tells you, oh, don't feel guilty. You do you, and don't worry about it, and everything is fine, and there is no guilt, and you should never feel bad about making yourself happy, and you should never feel bad about your decisions or choices or any of those other things. But the reality is, what's happened is we've capped our toothpaste, and we're getting squeezed. And it comes out in being sick and depressed and lonely and stressed and not able to rest and anxiety and all the things I just talked about. and it shows up all over our life. And the reason is we never take our suffering to the God we need. And we sit in this mess. And the psalmist said it doesn't have to be that way. He says there's actually hope. And he sums it up so beautifully, so perfectly with this very simple statement. He says, if you're bringing your suffering to God, you can be confident. You can actually have hope because of this simple truth. God keeps no record of sins, but there is forgiveness. No matter how much you have messed up. Have I sinned? Absolutely. Have I blown it? Yes, I have. Am I suffering because of it? I certainly am. Do I feel guilty? Yes, I do. But if I bring it before God and set it before him, he doesn't keep a record. And that is the basis of the hope that we have. And you might hear that and you think, is it that easy? Right? That's all I have to do. I mean, all the stress, anxiety, the suffering, the guilt, all the stuff you talked about, all the things that I feel. You're telling me that if I just set it before God, that's it. That's all I have to do. There's no other part of mine. God does the rest. Yes and no. Yes and no. God does do the rest. But because he knows we need to be part of this process, he invites us to do something, but it's not what you think it is. Look at verse 5. It explains what our next step is. If we're willing to bring our suffering to God, he tells us what to do next. Verse 5, he says, I wait for the Lord. My whole being waits. And in his word, I put my hope. I wait for the Lord more than watchman waits for the morning. And he repeats it. More than watchmen's wait for the morning. Israel, that's his people, that's his country. He's saying, people, put your hope in the Lord. For with the Lord is unfailing love. And with him is full redemption. He himself, he's not going to send somebody else. He's going to do it himself. He himself will redeem Israel from all their sins. I mean, this idea of a watchman is kind of unusual. Okay, so let me just kind of back up and explain that for just a second. In ancient days, a city would have a wall around it. That's how they protected themselves from armies or invaders or gangs of thieves or whatever else. They would build walls and they'd have some gates. Now, during the daytime, it's pretty hard to sneak up on someone, right? They got guards posted and they can watch everything. But at night, there's no street lights. Nobody's running around with flashlights. We don't have any of this stuff. I mean, it's pitch black. It's actually really easy to sneak up at night. And so what they would do is they would put watchmen on the wall. Pretty simple. Their job is to stay there all night and watch and make sure nobody tries to climb the wall or sneak into the city. An individual or a gang or an army sneaks up on them. None of that happens. Nobody gets in. Nobody opens the gates, all that stuff. Their job is really to sit there and wait. And he says, that's your role. You bring your suffering to God and then you wait. You wait like the watchman. Now, that may sound like, well, what does that even mean? You know what the watchman waited for more than anything else? Think about it. If you're sitting on the wall all night long, what are you waiting for? The sun to rise, right? When the sun comes up, it's like, okay, we can see. It's a new day. We can relax. We can open the gates. We don't have to worry about it. We made it through the night. The watchman is waiting for the sun to come up. But here's the thing. There's absolutely nothing he can do to make it go any faster, right? There's no way he can make the sun come any faster. And the opposite is true too. There's no way he can slow it down. If he's having a great night, there's no way he can stop the sun from coming up. It comes up every single day. And what the psalmist is saying is that waiting for God is like being a watchman. You can't speed God up. You can't slow God down. But he's always going to come. He comes every day. He never fails to show up. Just like the sun never fails to rise, he will be there in the end. And there's a couple of things about waiting and hoping, though, that I think are really, really helpful for us to know and to think about. And waiting, I think, let's just put our cards on the table. If you're waiting, he says you're supposed to wait like a watchman. Waiting is hard, isn't it? I mean, especially during a hard season. It is hard to wait. It is hard when it's a hard day, when it's a hard week, when it's a hard month, when it's a hard year. It's just hard to wait. But there's something happening when you wait. And I don't know if you ever thought about this, but God does a very God-like thing when we wait. The first thing God does while you're waiting is he builds a relationship with you. Because you know what happens when you're waiting? You keep going to God and saying, God, is it today? Can it be today? God, what are we doing today? How about today? God, I need this. I'm trusting you. I'm counting on you. He builds a relationship with you. You know, the other thing that happens while you're waiting is not only does it build your faith and build your relationship, but it also teaches you patience, which is the one thing everybody wants, but nobody wants to learn, right? I mean, I don't want to be patient. I need patience, but I don't like learning patience because patience means waiting. And God builds patience in us, teaches us to persevere. Another thing that God does is he teaches us to trust his timing. Now, it depends on your age, depends on your situation, but most of us can look back at our life and say, there was a time where I thought if this would have happened at this time, everything would be great, but I'm so glad it didn't happen, right? I wanted it so bad. I knew that was the right thing. I knew that was the right situation, and it didn't happen. And now that I look back, I'm so glad that didn't happen. Or maybe the other way, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to move. I didn't really want to take that job. But now that I look back, I realize, I'm so glad I did. God teaches us to learn to trust his timing. And so he builds his relationship with us. He teaches us to be patient. He teaches us to trust his timing. And the other thing he builds in us, or he does in us, is he matures us. And I know this isn't, nice to say, but think about a kid that gets everything they want, whenever they want it, as much as they want, anytime they want it. What do we call that child? Spoiled brat. Yeah, a spoiled brat, both. When it's a kid, it's kind of like, the grandparents or whatever, the whole thing. And it's like, hopefully they'll grow out of it, whatever. When it's an adult, that person is toxic, man. We push away from that guy, don't we? We don't want to be around that person. And one of the things that God does when we're waiting is he teaches us to value the answer. It becomes so meaningful when it finally comes. And we gain so much more perspective, and it changes who we are. And all this is happening while we're waiting. So I know waiting is hard. And if you're in a season of waiting, I get it. And I'm just telling you, God is at work while you wait. Let's talk about hope real quick. There's two things about hope you need to know. Because hope, like I said, we use it in so many different ways. We mean so many different things. We know it when we see it, and when it's real, and when it's permanent. We get it. We want it. We want to have that. But hoping does not mean doing nothing. It doesn't mean to do nothing. You see, when we hope, we actually do something. And here's what we do. If you're a follower of Jesus, you know this. God has called you to some things, right? I believe God has called you to the place you hold in your family. If you're a mom or a dad or a son or a daughter or brother, sister, uncle, cousin, whatever, I believe God has called you to the place you hold in your family. God put you there for a reason. He wants to use you in that family. I believe that God has called you to the place where you live. The neighbors that you have, the people around you, the coworkers that you have at your job. God put you there for a specific reason. He put you there on purpose. And I believe, and many of you experience this, you tell me all the time, I feel like God has called me to my career. The thing that I do, the work that I do, I believe God created me to do this. He's called me to this. And so one of the things we do when we're hoping, we don't just stop and put everything on hold. No. We step into the things that God has called us to do because we have a purpose and we know what it is. We're supposed to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. We love our neighbors as ourselves, and we live our lives as a witness to who Jesus is. So what it means to hope in that situation is I still go and do and be the person God called me to be in all the places he's called me to. And I am confident and I am trusting God that he is going to bring about what he said he would do. And so I'm going to turn away from my sin and I'm going to invest myself in what I know God's asked me to do. That is how we hope. The other thing about hope is not dreaming. Hope isn't spinning some fantasy that keeps us from being distracted and keeps us from getting bored while we wait of, when I win the lottery or when I'm running the company, when I'm retired or when my family all finally gets along and everything is wonderful. It's not spinning some fantasy. Hope isn't dreaming. And here's what I've done. Maybe you've done the same thing. We kind of come up with a plan for God, right? Hey, God, here's what I want. Here's how I need it to happen. Here's the day and the time and the situation. And God, so here it is. If you'll go ahead and get on board with my agenda, everything will be great. And I'll step back and wait for you to work out my plan. That's not hoping. That's bullying God, right? I'm trying to bully God into doing things my way. And here's what I've learned. When things work out my way, they usually don't work out well, right? I mess it up. I mess things up. Hope is saying, God, I trust you to do what you said you would do. In this psalm, he says, bring your suffering before God. Wait for God. Find your hope in him. Sometimes it was meaningless stuff like lunch was awful, and sometimes it was really important things like, Dad, I so missed you today. I could have used you because I had to do this, I had to do that, and I needed you. And so she started texting, and she's texted every day for 4 years. And finally, on the 4th anniversary of his death, she sent him a really long text where she explained everything that had been going on in her life the last 4 years and how upset she had been. She talked about all the things that had happened. She talked about her graduation. She talked about a failed relationship that she had. And she kind of, and she hit send. And this huge text goes, and she sets her phone down. And with a few seconds, she gets zzz, zzz, and she looks down, and it says, Dad. And she's freaking out. She's like, what is this? And she opens it up. It's from a man named Brad. Brad was actually the man with this other phone number, got reassigned to him. Brad's daughter had died 3.5 years ago. And he was getting texts every day from Chastity. And as he read these texts, he said, I wanted to respond, but I was afraid that if I responded, you would quit texting. And I saw these texts as a gift from God. He was filling my heart with what I was missing because I was missing my daughter. And he said, I had to answer today because as I saw you pour out your heart, I realized how much you've grown. And it's so amazing to see what God has done in your life over these last 4 years as you've tried to navigate life without your dad. Chastity, for a long time, didn't say anything about it. And she finally decided, you know what? I need to let my friends know. I need to let my family know. I need to let the world know. Because what I found was God is real and God shows up. And it may take 4 years, but he is always right on time. She had hope. And it was because she recognized that God was still at work, even in her pain and suffering. And her pain and suffering wasn't because of her sin. It was because of what happened around her. But God will always take our suffering. And so as you hear that, as you see that, it just makes it, again, plain to me that your circumstances change. And that is the basis for your hope. Yes, you may have blown it. You may have blown it with your wife. You may have blown it with your kids. You may have blown it with your own personal habits. Maybe you blew it with yourself, but you can still bring that to God. You see, you have a Father that loves you. Redemption and suffering are both real, but redemption has the final word, not suffering. He redeems, he restores. This is who he is. This is his identity. He is a forgiver at the very core of who he is. He was there at the beginning. He will be there after the end. God is on your side. He loves you. He's for you. He's pursuing you. And he is relentless. That's why you can have hope. Now, as you sit here this morning, or maybe you're online with us today, you may not be sure about God. You're like, I'm not sure if he's out there. If he is, I'm not sure, what I'm supposed to do or how that's supposed to work. And I haven't decided in my heart, my mind, exactly all that about God. But let me ask you a question. Isn't that the God you want? I mean, if you think about this good Father that's pursuing you, that loves you, that at his core is a forgiver, and he wants to trade your suffering for the hope that he can provide. Even if you don't know for sure that there is a God, isn't that the God you want? I think it is. And I got good news for you. Myself and hundreds of other people and thousands of other people for thousands and thousands and thousands of years have found him to be that God. So much so that they wrote songs about it 2,500 years ago. Because that's who he is. And I know for many of us, life is about pushing through, right? We're carrying all the stuff that we're carrying. And 2020, it's a weird year, and eventually we're going to stop talking about 2020, hopefully. But even beyond 2020, it's not easy. It's not always smooth. Sometimes life just feels heavy. And sometimes, like I said, it's because of the choices that we have made, right? God hasn't changed. He keeps inviting you. Hey, bring it to me. Yeah, but the reason I'm hurting is because I messed up. It's because I sinned against you. It's because I went wrong. He says, yeah, I know. Bring it to me. Because I'm a forgiver. And I don't keep a record of wrongs. Bring it to me. And if you're a follower of Jesus, which I am and I hope you are too, if you're a follower of Jesus, you know this is true. We still sin. We still mess up. We still suffer. But we have hope. Not because of anything we've done, but because we're willing to bring that before God, set our suffering before God, give up that sin, and walk with him, we have hope. If you're not a follower of Jesus, I want to invite you. I want to challenge you that maybe that's a decision you need to make today. And I'm going to talk more about that. But maybe that's a step you need to take, because the other thing that we have as followers of Jesus is, as a people, as a large group, and we're all over the globe, we're everywhere, you can't get rid of us. As followers of Jesus, one of the things we are is we are a people of hope. It's part of our identity. It's really who we are. And so my challenge to you, whether you're a follower of Jesus today or not, my challenge to you is to not live another day that's not hope-filled, because your Father wants to give it to you. Let's pray together. Father, I thank you that you are a hope-dealing God, that suffering is real, but redemption is real, and redemption always gets the last word. So, Father, my prayer today, for those of us here in the room, for those of us online, that we would have the courage to bring our suffering to you, even if it's suffering because we failed you. Father, help us to find the hope that only you give, because of who you are, because of what you have done, that we can have, and we can enjoy, and we can live hope-filled lives. Father, continue to speak to us and help us know what to do next. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Hey, it's good to talk to you one more time, and don't click off. I know when the sermon's over, it feels like everything's done, but it's not. There's actually a couple really important things that I need to share with you. I want to invite you to take what you heard today one step further. I've got a couple of questions I want to invite you to think about, maybe talk with your friends or your family about, because I think it'll take the idea of hope that all of us need right now and really cement it in your life. And so the first one is very simple. As you think about hope and what it means to be hopeful, how does the idea of a God who forgives, a Father that forgives, how does that give you hope? What is it about that image of God as a forgiving Father that makes you hopeful for the future? The second question is kind of similar, especially if you're in that period of waiting. We talked about waiting during the message. If you're in a place where you're waiting, what do you think God's doing in your life? Might be doing in your life while you wait? Great questions to really drive home this idea of hope and how it's based in something permanent. So I hope you'll talk about those. I hope you'll think through those. But it may be that you're ready to take another step, a next step. And so I want to invite you to do that. If you're watching us on our online platform, there's lots of simple ways to do that. There's links to prayer requests. Maybe there's something going on in your life where you would like our team. We have a team of people here that pray. They will pray with you and pray for you. Simply click that link. Let us know what's going on and how. There's also links for next steps. And those are steps for folks that feel like, hey, I'm ready to take another step spiritually. And kind of my bias is, I think anytime God speaks to us, we have a next step to take. And you're no different. So what step is it that you need to move forward with God? For some of you, it may be to become a follower of Jesus. Now that you understand this hope that He gives and how forgiveness works, you realize this is the path for my life. This is what I need to do. Or maybe it's baptism. Another great way to follow up that. So those could be possible steps that you want to take, or maybe you want to connect with a small group or get involved in serving. You love what we're doing and you want to help us as we're on mission. You know what? You can help us from home online. There are ways that you can even serve from home. So maybe that's a step you need to take. Whatever it is, click that button and let us know. We would love to help you move forward in your relationship with God, because at Mountain Ridge, we are for you. We're on your side. Now, there's one other thing I need to share with you. I would also like to invite you to give. And you may think, well, aren't churches always are trying to get money or anything like that? No, of course not. When you give, it helps us as a church reach our community. More important than that, it's a way for you to worship God, to put your money where your mouth is, so to speak. I want to invite you to give. If you're on our online platform, there's a link for that. If you're not, you can go to mountainridge.org/give. But when you give, it helps us do things like we're doing right now. It allows us to purchase equipment and allows us to fund our online worship services and to reach folks just like you. So it's a great way for you to partner. You will take advantage of that. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you spending some time with us. I know there's a lot going on, and we're honored that you chose to spend time with us today. And I want to invite you back as soon as you're able. Watch us online next week or come in person and check it out. We would love to meet you. Mountain Ridge is a place where you can belong, and I'm glad you've connected with us. Thank you. We'll see you soon.